Hello, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. I apologise for the late start. I was underneath this massive thunderstorm earlier, which has gone. Hang on. There we go, sorted the sound out. Anyway, massive thunderstorm took out my power, so I'm a little bit late tonight, but all working now. So, I'm going to start with the dollar tonight because one of the main factors that drives Bitcoin, I feel, is the US dollar, or the value of the US dollar. And last week we saw some really a really quite bearish reversal in the US dollar, some dollar weakness going into month end, and a lot of that was what I think pushed Bitcoin higher. But what the dollar index has now come back to is potentially some support. Big support here from the weekly moving averages, the 50 and the 20, a 38.2 fib retrace. And if we go to the daily, not quite these previous lows. So it's not quite the absolutely wow support that it could be. Potentially though, I think that there's one of two things going on here. Either we're in a bigger kind of correction or move higher, and if we are, this is where I would expect the dollar index to find support and move higher. So what happens on this next rally is going to tell us a lot about whether the dollar index is going to continue to rally or whether it's going to roll over. If it rolls over here, I think with a higher low and a lower high, we're coiling up. We're making, a big wedge. We'll have touches on either side like this. So this next rally, what happens in the dollar index here will tell us a lot. For me, I think if we look at the daily, I think I'd like to see this I'd like to see a back test of this daily 20 moving average. For me, that's like my best friend in terms of trend. That's where I want to see, and that is up at 92.33, and that's also a back test of the 236 fib level as well. So any rally this week and any dollar weakness, what ideally, if we're going to be bearish or stay bearish, the dollar index, what I'd like to see is a nice little sort of ABC equal three wave. Remember, three waves are usually corrective. So back to that daily 20, back to this 4-hour 200 moving average, back to this lovely, if you can see now on the lower time frame, support and resistance level at 92.33. And then if we roll over there and continue lower, I think that will be very good news for Bitcoin and will make that big wedge. So that's one of the key factors for me, the dollar, that really kind of drives Bitcoin. I think we see, risk on, risk off is also another factor. We talked this morning in my group about why bear markets tend to rally early in the day and early in the week, and bull markets tend to do the opposite. And so the fact that we're having a nice little pullback at the start of the month is not the end of the world, but it's also going to weigh on Bitcoin, and so we've got strong dollar, risk off in other markets. Those are all kind of quite weighty factors that will pull crypto back here. So if that's the case, where are we going to come back to in Bitcoin? I'm going to start off here with the Bitcoin futures chart, because when you look at a chart of the retail exchanges, or if we look at, for example, if we look at a chart, a historical chart, because they trade at weekends, the moving averages are very often in different places. But one of the key things that's quite interesting here is potentially there was some support from the weekly 20, and if we look at the daily moving averages, you can see that we're underneath the 200 moving average, which is not a happy place to be in terms of trend. But if we look at the Bitcoin futures, which honestly have as much volume as the biggest retail exchange, they are trading, in fact, above the daily 200 moving average, and potentially we're pulling back to some support in them. So what about where we are? Is this the high? Is this just a big corrective move, and is it over, or is this an impulse wave? Well, one of the things I look for, I know this looks like a big ABC off the lows here. One of the things that I look for is the relationship between the swings. So if I measure this wave 1 here, or this first wave off the low, and I project from the low here, you can see that we reversed at exactly 1.618 of this first swing. Now that's a very common relationship in a new impulse wave. One of the other things that makes me quite optimistic for Bitcoin is if we count how many green candles we had in a row here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that's very unusual. 10 green up days in Bitcoin without a pullback does also point to this potentially being a little bit of an impulse. We have to be in a really strong, you have to go back quite a long way. We have to be in a really strong uptrend to find 10 green candles in a row. So that makes me a little bit optimistic. So where are we likely to pull back to now that we've stopped? Well, as I just said, the daily 20 moving average for the dollar, that's where I'm looking for that to come back to. Your daily 20 moving average is your best friend in terms of daily trend. When you get a little bit too far from it, sometimes you need to come back, check it, find support from it and carry on. So that would be the first place that I would be looking for Bitcoin. Now we've had this big swing and we've started a correction to come back to. It's also having reversed at the 38.2. Remember, these fibs very often, they act like a staircase. So you bang your head on one, you come back, find support from the next one, and so on, and climb your way up. So that's all pointing again to 37.22. The other thing is the most common retrace of a wave 3, if this is a wave 3 and not just the top of the range when we're going all the way back to the lows again, a very common retrace of wave 3 is 38.2. So if I measure from the lows to the highs here and I put that 38.2 in, which is what we're looking for, let's see where that brings us. So I'm also going to put the 236 fib in. So that 38.2 also means back to sort of 37,500 for Bitcoin. 38.2s are sort of messy levels, so we might overshoot it a little bit. One of the things that makes me quite confident we're going down there is if, I use the 236 fib, the first Fibonacci retrace, as like my bull bear line. As long as we stay above it in terms of fibs, we're still in an uptrend. So last night, for example, we pulled back to that 236 fib and we bounced off it twice today, tried to hold it. We've just lost it now in the last hour, so that now points to also lower and 32,500 for this next drop for Bitcoin. So start of the month, I think that we're going to see a little bit of a pullback, and that's where we come back to. We could potentially come back to 50% of this rally. That would bring us back to here. Now, most people will tell you, well, gosh, if that's the high of wave 1, well, we can't come back to there. But what if this was, in fact, like this? So this was 1, and then we did an irregular correction for wave 2. Then it wouldn't be, terrible if we pulled back to this. But I think, ideal support, let's put it this way, the ideal place for Bitcoin to pull back to is 32,500. I think if we go beyond 36,000, that we are still in that bigger sideways range and so on. So if you've been long Bitcoin from these lows, this is really time to take some off and wait and see which support we're going to hold and pull back to. If you're bearish, whenever you lose moving averages like this, this is quite a nice sort of short term anyway, pullbacks reversal scenario. If you use Heikin-Ashi, we've suddenly got our first red Heikin-Ashi on the daily. You can see that when they happen, we usually get at least a day or two follow through. So that's what I'm expecting. Bitcoin back to 37,500, and potentially this is one big sideways wedge. Let's hope it's not like the dollar, but it could end up being like that. It's still midsummer in the northern hemisphere anyway. summer trading is notoriously difficult in kind of most markets, so or just tricky for trends anyway. It's rare to get markets that trend. That doesn't mean you don't get nice trades, but it's rare to get a kind of long-lasting trend. In fact, this rally that we've just had was really quite something. So that's how I'm seeing Bitcoin at the moment. You know, either short-term short or waiting to buy some more, potentially back around 37,000, 37,500, and I'm going to get a little bit bearish under 36,000. So I still see big picture for Bitcoin. If I'm going to zoom out here, I still see this as a big wave 4. This is a big wave 2, and if I count how long this took, I still think that we are going to go sideways. Although I think we've made a really good low around here, around 30,000, I think that we might go sideways into year end, and the real bottom will come, you know, in end of December, beginning of January for Bitcoin. But let's see. I'm often wrong, so I try to just read what the market tells me and look for signs that tell me I'm wrong. So, and I'm okay being wrong, you know. The most important thing is to recognize it and try not to lose money, right? So, you know, the worst times are when you're stubborn and you don't ignore what the market is telling you. Okay, let me see. I'm a bit behind with the comments tonight. Hello, everybody. I wish Squidgy, I wish it powered through the top of the range too. But, you know, here's another thing. Let's go put regular candlesticks on. If you go back through the months, it's quite amazing how many times Bitcoin makes a high or a low for the month around the 5th or the 6th, like sometimes mid-month, but it's very common. It's very common in Bitcoin, sort of a couple of days for it to be 5th, 6th, 7th, something like that. Sometimes the 4th. You know, sometimes it's the month end, but it's not a strange thing. So I wouldn't be surprised. Let's get this week out of the way. Let's get non-farm payroll rolls out of the way, which was always sporty on a Friday, and let's see how this pullback pans out and resets. You know, I'm not necessarily giving up. This rally was really quite something. I'm not necessarily giving up at all on my bullish view yet. Okay, we've got a really cool bullish cross of these daily moving averages. Normally when you see that, you would expect it to come back, find support from them, and then continue higher. And again, when I look at this on the futures chart, Bitcoin futures chart, you know, it is, in terms of moving averages, really much more of a bullish position for this pullback. You know, we are looking to come back to all of these daily moving averages and find some support from them. So yes, sideways at the moment, but this is, you know, it's normal for profit taking. The problem is though that if this was 5 waves down and this is just a correction, then back to the bottom of this wave 4 on the way down would be kind of normally where you would expect your correction to finish. So it becomes kind of really important that we go beyond this 42,000 level. So that's how I'm seeing Bitcoin at the moment. Okay, now when we look at Ethereum, the rally in Ethereum, the short squeeze in Ethereum, to be honest, was even more impressive. If let's take these fibs off for a second and take everything away, and you have to go back a long time in Ethereum history to find a rally like this, an extended rally with this number of days without a kind of pullback. And so again, that makes me a little bit hopeful that we've got more upside to come. One of the things when I look at ETH and this big drop and this second drop here was this off kind of big, we haven't gone enough, you know. I feel like if this is our big A leg, we're still doing potentially a big B leg rally. So this would be our first swing down, and then we do this for our second, you know, something like that. Especially when I look at this. This is a double bottom here. Let's put it in. So normally when you get a double bottom like this, a pretty perfect one, when you take out the high in the middle, you should go, your target should be twice this range. So here's our double bottom. And this is classical technical analysis. Here's our double bottom. Here's our highs of this first one anyway, but there we've got this bigger double triple bottom here. So, you know, it would be quite honestly weird in Ethereum if we didn't go back to the top of the range in this high in the middle. So I feel like this is a pullback on route at least to sort of 2,900. And potentially this is a bigger wedge as well, but you know, this is looking pretty bullish. How does ETH look against Bitcoin? Because this is one of the ones that, for me, if we look at what we've done in the last 3 days in Ethereum against Bitcoin, this is huge. And this is not only just huge for ETH against Bitcoin, but this is huge for altcoins. Because when Ethereum outperforms Bitcoin the way it is here, altcoins tend to rally and tend to outperform Bitcoin as well. And so that all points to me for a little bit of a bottom being in. And the other thing you tend to see when the crypto market as a whole turns is what you tend to see is Bitcoin will rally first. So you'll see a really impressive rally in Bitcoin, which we saw. And then as people take profit into Bitcoin, they tend to move it into crypto assets that haven't gone yet or haven't taken off yet because they're expecting the follow on. So they don't move into the big alts like ETH and ADA and, you know, Litecoin and Ripple and the big cap alts, if you like. They tend to rally, and then you take profit in those, and it kind of spreads out, if you like, into the smaller and smaller altcoins that haven't rallied yet. That's kind of the Mexican wave that it tends to make. And so this is what we're seeing. Really, really big rally in Bitcoin. ETH didn't follow or was lagging, and now we're seeing the catch up here. Now, very often like this, you could draw a wedge like this, and it sometimes turns into a bigger one. So first off, third touch here, if I draw this correctly, is very often a false breakout. So it may be that we have a little stall here, which we'll see. And when these altcoins tend to fall, they tend to fall harder than Bitcoin. So it may be ETH here has a little bit of a pullback. And also what it tends to see, if we look at all of this, we had this was a 3-wave rally. This was a 3-wave rally. This probably will be a 3-wave rally as well. And if this was the first, second, third, let's see where we end up. If we measure from here, like this, I might be doing this wrong, but a little bit higher, which would mean that potentially we need to widen out our wedge a bit and look for this 50% level, or 0.07 anyway. So a little bit of a pullback here. 0.65 I would expect to be support, and then ETH Bitcoin continue higher to 0.07, and this move, potentially a breakout move for ETH against Bitcoin, is really good news for altcoins, and we should see the love from Bitcoin spread out a bit as people take profit. And then what will happen is, you know, Bitcoin starts to move again, and then everybody moves back from the alts and moves it back into Bitcoin to catch the move, and that's how it tends to work out. So really impressive in the last 2 days move here in ETH Bitcoin. Looking for it to follow through on pullbacks. Would prefer it if we didn't stop at 0.07, would like it if we kept going, to be honest, and the bottom be in for this one. So let's see. That's actually quite a nice looking chart, isn't it? Okay, next one we're going to look at is Ripple. So Ripple's got this lawsuit things are not going too badly. I mean, you think to yourself, oh gosh, and lawsuit with the SEC. You know, the SEC tend to win most of their cases by scaring people into settle. They very rarely risk going to court, and so it's not a sure thing that they're going to win at all. I wouldn't bet on it. The problem with this Ripple chart is, you know how corrections are normally three waves. Very often they have a relationship, and very often they can be equal. We have stopped at the equal measured move level in Ripple, which is when we looked at it last night, where our target was a little bit higher than where we were. So what we really don't want is too big of a reversal here. These moving averages, if we can stay above 0.654, we might pull back here. I would prefer not, but to come back that too far, to be honest, it's not got a very underneath this 200 moving average, let's put it this way, with a deep pullback would not be after a three-wave rally, would not be very compelling buy, would it? Even if it just retests the lows, it would point to a retest of the lows. So I would like to see us hold these moving averages on a pullback if we see one in the broader market. I think if you get a dip back to 0.65 or these daily moving averages that hold support and try again, that would be a really interesting buy level, you know. But at the moment, of course, with this lawsuit, it's a little bit of a lottery ticket, isn't it? What happens if we can have a shallow pullback, break above that 200 moving average? I think we're in a bit of a downward channel, and third touch of this higher trend line would be where I'd be looking first. Sort of round number 1.0, maybe 1.1, something like that. But at the moment, it's like a holding pattern for Ripple. I don't think it's a terrible thing to hold some as a lottery ticket, because it will just, if they win, it will just explode. But I also think that, you know, you shouldn't risk too much on it, and because if that's your strategy, you should try and buy pullbacks. So if we're looking for where to pull back to in this Ripple, that 0.65 level would be where I would be looking for. So I think a pullback to there. So short term, how are we looking here? Yeah, this was it's just a little bit toppy, isn't it? Flat tops produce market drops, is what they used to say. Okay, so the next one we look at is DOT. And so basically what we're looking for, markets that are holding support, trending quite nicely, and this is one of those ones that we could say is really doing that. Now, when we marked this last time, we've gone beyond we've gone beyond the resistance. We're doing really well in DOT. Again, if you go back in DOT, it's really hard to find an extended rally like this that really wasn't part of an impulsive move or a trend move higher. It's done everything it can to reverse off the lows. We've taken out the previous swing high. We have gotten above the daily 50 and 20 moving averages. Now we would look on any pullback for those moving averages to be support, and we continue higher to at least the 200 moving average, if not the bottom. So this one, I think, we've got our lovely big first rally off the lows. I think this is also a really nice buy on a pullback, because this just looks like one big swing to me. Now, this might not be, the other thing I should say is, this might not be the high. We may have looked at a 1, 2, 3, and we've got one more push higher before we get a bigger pullback to those moving averages. I thought if we look here, I thought 20.25 might be it. But if everything's having a bigger pullback here, then this one will too. But DOT for me is looking like a really interesting bottom. And even if it's not, even if this is just a correction, we've really only had one wave. And so even if this is just going to be an ABC correction, this is the first swing, we should see a pullback. buying the next dip for the next swing higher, you know, isn't crazy, because we should see at least another swing. We can measure it, we know where it stops. If for example, if we were to see a shallow pullback here, sort of 3 waves, shallow pullback here, and then another leg higher that stopped at the 200 moving average here, and these two swings were equal, and then we had a nasty drop, we can say, well, yeah, that's probably a correction, it's not a bottom, and so on. But if we go beyond that, if this swing is 1.618 of the first swing, then we would be looking to pull back to support for the 200, and we've made a bottom. So, you know, that's how I kind of look at the markets, to see. But even if all we do is get here, that's still not a bad trade, is it? So, you know, let me see, night out. What would be the Bitcoin Euro target on the weekly chart? Let's go back to Bitcoin. So when you say target, you mean pullback level? RA Vices thinks that they're all, what would be the target on the weekly chart? So on the weekly chart, in Bitcoin Euro, this is again, what if this is a double bottom here and this is the high, we've just pipped it, and we're going to see a shallow pullback? We should go twice this range, right? We should, and 50%, but let's do it this way. So I think the pullback level for Bitcoin Euro would be 31,125. So 31,125. And I think the next leg up should take us to 39. So the continuation, 39 from here, but normally I would look for 786. 39 and then 47,000. So we would see this, and then this, and then continuation. So 40, I think we get to 47,000 before we see a bigger pullback. 39 is where you have your sell, okay. 39 is 50%. Okay, if this is just a correction that's going to look like this, well, we're going to see new lows. 39 is one of those things, and if we we could see back to the weekly 200 moving average down here, if you like. Okay, if we go beyond that, and if we go up to 47,000, so we take out that 50% level, I think it's more likely that we're going to make some kind of triangle or wedge pattern, something like that, you know. I don't think it'll take as long as that. I haven't drawn it very well. Let's try again. So it would be something like, sorry, there. So either way you cut it though, this is the first resistance, this is those previous highs. We're going to see a little bit of a pullback here, I think, to start the month. So let's see how we go. Okay, next one we're going to look at is ADA, then Link, then Matic. So ADA. So let's start with the weekly chart in ADA, because this is quite a impressive weekly chart. Let me take this scribblings away. In terms of how we've held support, how we've held these previous lows in ADA, this little kind of bottom that we're making here. I know some people are going to say that this is a head and shoulders pattern, and to be quite honest, if we break these lows here, we will have broken major support level in ADA, and that is quite a possibility. However, we've got back above that weekly 20 moving average. On the daily, here we are with all of our moving averages bunched up. A break higher here would be quite, away from these moving average, would be quite significant. I would like to see this, a shallow pullback here, maybe back to the 200 moving average if we're going to be bullish, and so on. So sideways, flat moving averages, no trend at the moment here in ADA. We really need a breakout of this range. We can see it a little bit more clearly on the 4 hour. So let's do that. Let's draw a trend line. Okay, first off, here's these highs that we couldn't break above. I'm gonna, because this is a higher low and this is a lower high, this is another time where I think we're coiling up. So we can draw it like this, and we can go from this low like this, and say this is where our triangle range is, and it may end up being bullish and it may end up being bearish, but either way we kind of need a breakout. Third touch false breakout is very normal. What we need now is just a shallow breakout and then a shallow pullback and then a continuation higher. Otherwise we risk going back to the bottom. So there we go. Squidgy says, what's my expectation for the bull cycle to end this time around? No, I think that we're going to start in, I think the next bull, okay, I think the next bull run higher is going to start in January 22, and it's a fifth wave. They can extend a very long way. So no, I think that our next big swing starts in January 22. Now, if we look at wave 1 and wave 2 very often have a relationship. So let's do this, see if this is the bottom here. So let's see, in fact, in terms of time, how long this took. December 2018, wasn't it? And it lasted until June 2019, so these rallies could only be 6 months. That's not necessarily, though. They can really, I just wouldn't underestimate how long, how much fifth waves can extend. They really can. So I think that we'll actually see the start of a rally in January 2022. Okay, I'm waffling. So link is sideways. We really need a breakout. It's the top of the wedge. We need to not come back too far. I'd really like to see us hold this 200 moving average and then carry on and higher from here. But if we break down underneath this 200-day moving, 4-hour 200 moving average, underneath these lows on the daily, yeah, it would be the daily 20 moving average here. If we lose that, then we're in a bigger correction and potentially could head back to the lows in ADA. So I'm looking for a shallow pullback, but let's see what we do. Okay. We're going to look at Link and Matic and Sol. Okay, so first off, we'll look at Link. So another one of those charts in sort of sideways consolidation. However, most people who know me know that I really lean on a 236 fib. Okay, so, and if we look, I like to see them either respected the first time we touch them, support if we go beyond them. I like to see the market kind of acknowledge them. And then if you go beyond a 236, you have got, in terms of fib, for me, a bullish reversal. And when I look at this Link chart, we have today gone beyond this 236 fib, having not being able to close above it at the end of the month and having a little bit of a pullback there. So this is quite a nice bullish chart. If we can close above 22.73 tonight, this not be a false breakout on the daily and the weekly, I'm looking for this to follow through and continue higher. There is a little bit of a problem here at these highs, look. So we're not quite out of trouble because of this weekly 20 moving average. But I would expect if we close above it, this 236 fib to be support. So again, only shallow pullback in link. There's our parameters, bearish underneath, bullish above, and that's what I'm looking for. So we need to make a new high above 23.94 that to take us above the weekly 20 moving average, and then we can set course for 28.51 next, which would be where we're going to say hi to the daily 200 moving average as well. So that's the next target. Looking quite good. In fact, looking really good in link as long as we hold above 22.73. More upside and potentially bottom in as well. So what do I think regulation would have on the crypto markets? Are you talking about so are you talking about Binance making people do know your customer for withdrawals and stuff? Because, you know, to be honest, I think it's been coming for a while. And I think if we don't do know your... This is why privacy coins are so popular, if you like. Quite a lot of the other exchanges, they won't let you withdraw very much unless you do know your customer certain levels. And it doesn't seem to affect their business. FTX make you do KYC. You know, it's coming. They're going to shut these firms down unless they do it. And so I don't think, you know, I don't think we have a choice. You know, I think regulation that stopped big investors, you know, big investors want to know that it's, I think, you know, more than just, you know, where drug dealers hide their money, you know. So I think it's been coming for a while, and I don't think that this Binance issue is a big deal, really. To be honest, it's doing what the other exchanges have always done. So you can't withdraw money out of Coinbase or any of the others unless you've done KYC. So not a big deal. So I'm quite bullish Chainlink above 22.73. I'd really like to see it hold it and keep going higher. So there we go. I think it's really irritating. So there's been a lot of shit. I had a guy in my group who got a mortgage approved with the bank. He sent his bank statements, got his mortgage approved. So the bank who was lending him the money knew that he had a Binance account and sent money or got money from Binance. But the lawyer, his real estate lawyer, looked at the thing and said, "Oh, I'm not," you know, he basically assumed just because he'd done business with a crypto exchange that the source of his funds to purchase the house were not legitimate and wouldn't do business with him. It's like, I mean, honestly. So I think that, you know, there is some odd thing. Yeah, some of the banks will not let you send your money direct to some of them. Even so, in the UK, we had a new bank, you know, one of the challenger banks called Revolut, an internet bank, and Revolut were very big, like, you know, you can open an account with us and you can buy cryptocurrencies. So I thought, well, that's brilliant. I opened an account with Revolut and thought I'll send my Bitcoin to Revolut. But no, you can only buy your Bitcoin from Revolut, and you can send it out if you want to from there, but you can't send cryptocurrency or Bitcoin to Revolut. And so I was like, oh, so frustrating, but there you go. So yeah, we really do need we need all this shit to die down, really, if we want to see Bitcoin more adopted. I'm afraid that's kind of what's got to happen. So, you know, I'm not going to lecture people about paying taxes, but, you know, if you make, in this country, if you make a big profit in anything, you know, you should expect to pay capital gains taxes. You know, it's not huge. It is 20%. I know some people think that paying any tax is, you know, theft, but it's what schools run on. So you have to test FTX. I'm not paid by FTX or funded by them, but I can say I've done know your customer with them, and I've found them very easy to deal with. So, you know, if you want Bitcoin that nobody knows about, you need to keep it in, you know, how else would Boris pay his child support? I know. How is he still there? Let's ask ourselves that. Anyway. Okay, you're not paying tax on that money, you're paying tax on the gain on that money, and you can set any losses against it. So, you know, you only pay capital gains if you make a big gain, and if you make a loss the following year, you can offset it. So, you know, it's not and you only pay it if you withdraw it. So I'm not, honestly, I don't want to get into a tax argument with people or you know, we all try and pay as little as possible, right? That's the game. You know. So taxes annoy me because I always find like it's the poor people that can afford it least that seem to pay the most. But you know, there we go. Let's talk about Matic, because here's another really nice bullish chart. It's trying to be anyway. It's going sideways, so it's a bit like ADA. We're stuck in between our moving averages. We've been stuck in between them for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. If I take my fib retraces away, if I take all the moving averages away, if I take everything away, really what we've got is a big bullish bar here, and then inside bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inside bars. One of the things about inside bars, if we need to look at the open and closes and not the tails. And if you look here, we are holding in the top half of this range of this candle. This is really bullish. In fact, you know, only if we close more than halfway down of this green open close would I start to say. So I think that we consolidate here. Maybe a shallow pullback is what I'm looking for. And then I think Matic is all set as well to continue higher. I would love to see an inverted head and shoulders pattern here, or something like that. That would be amazing, amazingly good looking, because I like Matic on the bullet side, because I think that this has made the big 3-wave correction that we look for. It certainly has that look, and so I'm looking for this to be a nice bottom, and up we go from here. I can count, if you like, 5 waves up. I think we've pulled back to the bottom of this wave, so there's a lot to like about this. John Gasson, you recently had some sending from Lloyds and TSB to Kraken. So you sent cash from Lloyds to Revolut, and then from there, yes, I think Revolut is going to be useful for that. It was just annoying that Suji says the whole wash sale thing. Yeah, of course it does. You know, they're these retail exchanges are trading against you and they're not regulated. But if they comply and if they do their know your customer thing and they do all that, they are going to become regulated, because the only way they can continue to do business with us is if they allow themselves to be regulated. That's what's coming. And so it's really annoying for us that we have to do the know your customer thing. But the upside of it is that the exchanges get regulated. They can't use the bots to trade against you, and they can't do the wash trading, and they can't do all of those other things. Never mind, we haven't even mentioned the dodgy stuff with Tether. So, you know, regulation is frustrating, but there are upsides to it. Okay. So I've got Matic against Euro here. We need to switch Matic to dollar to get the prices that we need. I'm talking too much. Here we go. Here's the lovely, what I think looks like correction. Anyway. So, a little bit of a double top going on here in Matic. Sideways range. Flat moving averages means that we have no trend. Flat moving averages means that we need to break out of this sideways range if we're going to do it. So that means breaking out of the range of this big bullish candle that we have been trading inside of. And if we break down and we come back for that 1, 2, 3 waves of support, this is where we need to hold, because if we go underneath this, this would be a bearish reversal for Matic. Otherwise, we're going to try and buy the next pullback swing or a breakout. No trend really until then. This was, though, an impressive rally, just like it was across the board in crypto. If we put our fibs on, then this is the 236 fib. This is what we've got to get above, and this is what we've just crept above in Link that says we're going up. So I like Matic, but it's got to be above 1.1419. So basically 1.142, above 1.142, we are bullish. Underneath, we risk a deep pullback before we go up again. So nearly for Matic, but not quite there yet. If we look at Sol, let's find Sol. Sorry, I'm going really slow tonight. I need to get going. Didn't know, but thanks to the thunderstorm, couldn't get any charts ready. So, but never mind. Here we are now. So let's put regular candlesticks on, weekly candlesticks. If this is the bottom of our wave 4, we've held this support pretty nicely. If we were looking in this for an ABC, where the third leg is 61.8 of the first leg, that's exactly what we've done here in Sol. So potentially that's really nicely bullish. But again, we've gone flat now with this moving average. We've got a little bit of a sideways range going on. Let's see if we can see it here on the daily. So, can't break above these highs yet. Flat moving averages. It's like, So, which way next? I favour bullish, but being summer, we could see a bit of a nasty pullback before that happens. So no breakout yet. Now, if we put this on, this didn't quite reach the previous high, did it? So maybe one of our little fib rules will help us here. So 886 reversal, that is, normally means back to the 50%. It's not letting me do it. I forgot. TradingView is locked up and I can't reset my... So this is the target. 30.1 is the pullback target for Sol. And if we go beyond 30.1, back to the bottom of the wedge. But 30.1 for me would be where a bullish pullback comes back to, and then we come back and higher. So I would say with this reversal, time to get out of Sol or de-risk a little bit and wait and see if 30.1 holds on a pullback and then turns higher again. Okay, next one we're going to look at is Rune. Otherwise, we go all the way back to the bottom of the wedge, unfortunately. Here's Rune. Another one. So off the lows, pretty nice reversal. These fibs are not what we're looking at, so we're going to take them off because they didn't line up perfectly. I'm picky, so we're going to go from the high to the low. We're going to call this 236 our resistance, and that happens to be where our weekly 20 moving average is. So we're going to be bullish if we get above 7.32, and if we can't hold above 7.32, then no reversal. I think we're looking pretty good. I think we look pretty good holding above this daily 50 like this, above it, support the last 3 days, bullish move higher here. We're just not quite out of the woods yet. So above that 236 fib, above the 200 moving average, so basically this is our resistance, then we can say we've got a bit of a bullish reversal. If we look though, we're getting close to 5 waves up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, aren't we? And so 3 wave, I think it wouldn't be crazy that we got into this resistance, we did a 3 wave back, and then see if we can carry on from there. So not a great place for new longs at the moment. Certainly not when we've gone all the way up like this in a straight line. If we look at the daily, too many greens in a row. We need a little bit of a bigger pullback, a bigger 3 wave pullback to get in this one. But if you're in it, I think it's, yeah, it looks good, but I would like it much better just above this kind of resistance zone. So 7.3 up to kind of 7.6, which is where that daily 200 moving average is. That's where we need to go beyond. So in fact, a inverted head and shoulders pattern here being summer, that would be quite a nice look, wouldn't it, if we match this. So yeah, not a good place for new longs, but I would like to see a little bit of consolidation and then continue higher for Rune. I think it's got lots of potential. If you're in it, hang on for the ride. Now comp is one, when I looked at this one a week ago, this was looking really good. It was all set, I thought, for an inverted head and shoulders pattern, something like that. Let's see. It had the look anyway. So how has comp done? Here's all again, let's see. Yeah, here's what I mean about the potentially this pattern. And here it is on the short term. So our short term pattern underneath the 200 moving average didn't pan out. It was here. So left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We didn't break the neckline. So that neckline is still, unfortunately, here, resistance. Now, does that mean that our bigger daily chart is not so bullish? All of these moving averages are the wrong way round. We need to be above the 200 moving average. So no, I don't think it is invalid. Whenever you see a correction like this, so here's our low to high. This one went first, didn't it? And you pull back to the middle like this, 50 or 61.8, and then try and go higher. That's always suggests a trend to me. And so, yeah, I can still see this breaking out and next leg up, if you like. So it's just if everything else in crypto is having a little bit of a pullback, then this comp is likely to do the same. So again, not quite ready to go. Now, if we look at our RSI, we'd really like to see this reset, wouldn't we? So first leg down, rally, second leg down, and then off the lows would be good. So again, first leg, choppy, overlapping, corrective rally, next leg. So something like this. And back to the lows, which is this left shoulder level, wouldn't be a surprise. So 363 would be where I'd like to see, and that would be an ABC correction if we came back there as well, an equal measured move. That would be a good look for comp. You can see it lines up perfectly, so I'm expecting it to potentially drop down to, probably drop down to 364, and I think it might be, I would be watching for a bullish reversal there to buy. So if we could hold 387, it would be really bullish. But watch out. Everything else, yeah, pretty much everything is pullback. I agree with you, Christian S. Everything is kind of set for a pullback, isn't it? So comp the same, didn't break out from our head and shoulders patterns here. Now we're going to see an ABC pullback before we try again. Next one is ANT. Don't think I've got that anywhere, so let's take a look. ANT. Now, I've got to say, you know, this looks like, let's go to the daily. This looks like one of those irregular corrections, if you like, false breakouts. But it's not. It's going to be bullish because if we can hold these daily moving averages. So we've just got the bullish cross here, 20 above the 50. So short term, if we can do a little three-wave correction back to those moving averages and then rally from there, that would be a really good look for this one. 3.49. So if the 61.8, 3.74 would hold, and could be quite interesting. That's always what you look for. If we go back here in this chart, let's try and why won't it do this? Please. Drawing little dots everywhere. Okay, this is what I mean. You rally, you get above the moving averages, you pull back to them for support, and up you go. And then as you trend, your moving averages become your support, and in a downtrend they become your resistance. So getting back above them, finding support and turning up higher here would be the really bullish move. If I was didn't want to miss this, wanted to put an alarm on, for example, if you've got the TradingView app on your phone, you'll get the alerts on your phone. You can put a trend line here, click add alert, put it on, so when price crosses that trend line, you'll be alerted. So until then, looking for a pullback in ANT and looking for those daily moving averages to hold. Let's see. It's a little bit choppy, isn't it? If they don't hold, if you don't get a bullish signal there, if we don't turn up higher there, it's not a buy. I shouldn't have to say it, but let's see what happens. Okay, ENJ. Engine. So this is a classic example of stuck in a sideways range on a weekly chart. We're stuck in between the 20 and the 50 moving average. Flat moving averages, so we've got no trend. We're basically consolidating sideways. So you know how we talked about we had a big bullish candle. So we had a big bullish candle, and then all the following candles were in the top half. And so as long as they stayed in the top half, that was bullish consolidation, and we were going to look for it to continue higher. Well, we've got the opposite going on here. We've got this bearish, big bearish candle, and now here we are in the bottom half of this candle consolidating. It's not bullish until we really break above these highs here in the middle, you know, and this closing high. And then we take out, you can see that's what the resistance has become. And so that's what we need to get above if we're going to make some progress and break out here in Engine. So that's the weekly view. And here on the daily, flat bunched up moving averages. So we need to get above 1.53 basically. Above 1.53 we're bullish, and that's, until then, honestly, this could go either way. Really could go either way, and it could unfortunately make another leg lower as well. So no breakout unless we get above that level, 1.54. And because this is crypto, as soon as you get a really obvious level like this, sometimes it's better to wait until we break above it. Don't buy the breakout because it might be a fake out that comes all the way back. Wait till we get above it and then buy the pullback. Not like that, sorry, obviously like that. Buy the pullback. So engine, not bearish, not bullish, just sideways. If everything in crypto gets a little bit heavy for a week, we may see a bigger pullback here, back to the 50 moving average, maybe back to the slow. And there's this kind of pivot level through the middle here, isn't there? From here, you can see it, these lows, this high. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go back underneath 124. I would look for 124 support in engine, and we'll go from there. Let's look at cream and FTT. So cream, this is another coin. I'm going to go to the weekly and tidy up my chart a bit because we're just stuck. Here's our, I'll take everything off. Here's our previous high. Are we making a pretty good base here? It kind of looks like it, but we've got this resistance. This is the high from the last swing lower, and that's what changes the trend here on the weekly. If we trade above that and then make a higher low, we are trending higher. So stalled at resistance. A bullish pullback here would be just 50% of this weekly candle, find support here, and then carry on higher. So if you're wondering, if you're long, that's what you would want to see. So, you know, somewhere like 178, 179. If, I'll try safe mean, I'll try and look at safe mean. Okay. So this is, yeah, this is a little bit of a pullback, and we'll get quite bearish kind of under 178. But 178 would mean also back to these lows, back to the daily 200, and so on, and not good news. So let's see if we can do it. Ideally, like, take our time, not to fall back too far. Do this, 20 moving average catches up, off we go. That would be nice, a nice shallow pullback. But more than that, take your profit out. If everything's going to have a big pullback, you know, get out. You can always buy it back again. Okay. FTT and KSM. Let's see, FTT. I don't know where that chart. Let's so this is one of those charts. When it was going up, everyone thought I was never going to stop, and then it did. So this is let's take our weekly chart down. So if we go all the way from the lows in this one, we pulled back to 61.8 level. I'm having trouble. It won't let me draw. I hate this trading view. Don't know why it won't let me draw. But trust me, this is the 61.8 fib here. Okay? And this is the 50% pivot level in the middle. We've gotten above that 50% pivot level. If we're going to keep going higher, that's where the support is in FTT. And that's also the weekly 20 moving average. So in a pullback this week in FTT, I would be looking for 32.11 to buy. So 32.11. If we pull back more than that, this becomes a nasty bearish reversal. If I put, again, my fibs that it won't let me draw, I bet it doesn't even let me. No. Okay. So, sorry about that. There we go. So 32.1, I would be bearish underneath that. I think we should see shallow pullbacks in FTT. And more than that, it's just like Bitcoin. This is, instead of being a bullish move off the bottom, this becomes a sideways range and that we can't break out of. So yeah, 32.10 then, key support for FTT. And below it, I would abandon your longs and wait for a bigger pullback. KSM. So let's look at this on the weekly. So this is one of those, this is quite a bullish chart. This is trying to bounce off a 786 fib. So all-time lows to highs. Here we are with this 786 fib retrace. It won't let me mark on here either. So we're holding the lows. Everything's good. And if we are going to reverse it at 786, you have to get above the 61.8. You have to think of these fib retrace levels like a ladder, climb one, and so on. And that would also be back above the weekly 20. So 253 is our resistance. And that's where we've got to get above. At the moment, we haven't managed to get above the 50 moving average. And so, you know, that in itself is also not bullish yet either. And I wouldn't want to see it pull back too far here either. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so a close above 216, we would give ourselves a target of 253. If we can't get above 216, I'm afraid we're still in a downtrend. These KSM daily moving averages are still lined up bearish, 20 underneath the 50, and this is set for a deeper retrace, if you like. Back underneath this 20 would be a bearish trigger, and you'd be looking for the lows, if not another low. So not a bullish reversal yet for me in KSM. Potentially back below 190, a retest to the lows. Okay. Next one we're going to look at is band. B-A-N-D. Hello, band. Let's start on the weekly chart. So this is another one. Potentially a reversal at a 786 fib. Okay, would have to get above the 61.8 and these weekly moving averages if it's going to go higher. So it needs to get above basically 9.202. So 9. That's our bullish target. If we look at the daily, we could probably get there with this one, because this is the one where I know we've made a slightly lower high here, but potentially holding above. You see how these moving averages were resistance before and now we're above them? Band is perfectly set for us to find support from these moving averages here and continue higher. So we will be looking for a pullback to them, a shallow pullback. Let's see here. So that would mean something like this. Back to this previous low. 3-wave pullback. 4-hour 200 moving average, and up we go again. So for me, the ideal level would be about 5.7, maybe not below 5.7. Below there, I think a bigger correction underway, and below 5.7, we risk this becoming, just like Bitcoin and ETH, a bigger wedge here. So in other words, we're coiling up. So we've made a lower high, and we made a higher low, and so that's coiling up, nesting. Okay, so 5.7 needs to hold a support, or we could go all the way back to the bottom of this wedge in bands. So be very careful. And let's do, did I cover AAVE lend? No, I didn't, but I could have a look, and I know there's a few. Let's see if it's here. Here's AAVE. Now, this is another one. Potentially. Can't break these highs. Look, let's take this away. This is 61.8 of our first swing. This is the swing high before we went lower. This is the highs that we've got to break above that it's just struggling at. And then also the 200 moving average. So AAVE, a little bit of trouble. If we do break above this, then we're still going to bump ahead maybe on this 200 moving average. And then I think these highs are going to come into play and an equal measured move. So let's measure this again from this low to this high, project it from here. If we can make new highs, we're looking for 389 next. And above 389, potentially 438, but then 500, 499 would be my next upside target after that. And I think we'd be looking really good there. But at the moment, we could just, do the same wedge that is showing up everywhere else, in that we've made a lower high, a higher low, and we're coiling up. So really need a breakout, really. So let's not let this one come back too far. Say you were long lend, where would you not want it to come back below to know it was going lower? 309, the 236 fib, 309.6, which was the low today. A daily close underneath that would say that we've stopped going up and we're going to do a bigger correction. So need to be a little bit careful. VRA, let's take a look at VRA. Well, everything in crypto is doing very similar patterns at the moment, aren't they? Very similar patterns. So this is quite pretty. So this is what they call a rounded retest, or an Adam and Eve bottom. So if you like, so here was our spike low, sharp bounce, and here's our long rounded retest. Potentially this is a head and shoulders pattern. This is a really nice pattern to see if you're making a rounded retest. So it would look something like this, and we would get excited if we broke above the neckline. But unless we do, this is another chart where really we've got flat moving averages, and we need to break out of this sideways range. I would say this is one where I'm more bullish when I look at these candlesticks, because here's our big 3 green thrust candlestick, and here are our little inside bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inside bars, and all of these inside bars are in the top half. So this is another chart where, I think this is bullish consolidation, and unless it breaks down, I'm looking for this to break higher. I do like how we've snuck above the 50 moving average today. I think we've got a really good chance for VRA. to go higher from here, and looking really good actually. Am I interested in FTM? Hi, K Kang, any thoughts on Luna? So we'll do Luna and FTM. Let's look at Luna. We have been following this one. It's just everything is at resistance, isn't it? Let's look at Luna. We'll look at it against Tether. So here's our weekly chart. Lovely bullish reversal. Now this one, so we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how we've gone beyond. So in Bitcoin, we've stopped, if you like, at this 1.618 level of the first leg. In Luna here, we've gone beyond it, and this 1.618 now should be support, and I'm looking for Luna to continue higher to 15. So what are we at now? Sort of 11, 12. So yes, I'm a little bit bullish. So again, we're going to do some sideways consolidation. We've done our first leg, ABC. I would expect another swing lower here, and then up hopefully, and that would be my target. So I would only be a little bit bearish or wrong if we go underneath 10.9. So 10.9 is support. I'd like to see Luna hold that and then continue higher to 15.3 next. Okay, that's what I think of that one. I'll look at GRT. Okay, so GRT and then FTM. So GRT, let's start with our weekly chart. This one is unfortunately no breakout yet. Coiling up now. There's lots to like about this. Big three-wave correction probably. Probably a big fib level in GRT. Let's see. 786. Yeah, it's a bit messy, isn't it? But yeah, it's sideways. It really needs to break out of this sideways range. I'd like to see this as accumulation. I like how our moving averages are crossing, but unless we can break out of this wedge, then we're not going anywhere. Here's our third touch today. Even when we do, the next level, your first target, is still only going to be this double top level resistance. So this is your first target in GRT at 0.95, and then we'll be looking for the 236 fib from the high, like this, and then 106. So 0.95, then 1.06. Above 1.06 and this 200 moving average, then yeah, we can talk about a reversal and breakout. So that would be this trend line basically, wouldn't it? If we break higher from here, we're headed back to this trend line area, 200 moving average and 236 fib, all resistance zone. And FTM. Did I look at FTM? No, I didn't. FTM. Can't remember if I've got a chart here. I think I might have. I might have a. That Ren has a nice look, to be honest. I'll go look at this in a minute. Okay. Now, it looks like this low has become a little bit of support and resistance. Let's put regular candles on and closing prices. Okay, this low here. Let me make sure it's flat. Okay, so this spike low here, retested it, couldn't close underneath it, washed it a little bit here. Underneath it, it's when you get underneath it, it becomes resistance. fighting it. We're really just having a little bit of a fight here. If I base it on the close price as well, you can see that this would be also, even if we do continue higher here, next resistance. So that's just how these levels tend to work, unfortunately. So 0.28 is key for trend. If we have a shallow pullback, 0.28 back to our moving averages, which are bullish because we're above them, then first resistance will be 0.28. If we're going to stay bullish, we're not going to pull back too far. We're going to hold these moving averages. We're going to do a nice little 236 pullback, and that would mean, gosh, that's today's low, isn't it? Holding 0.24, not dropping beneath them. Below 0.24, next support is 0.2237. There, 0.2237. We stay bullish if that holds, and we have another retest, and then we're looking for 0.28 resistance. Only above 0.28 have we reversed the trend. Whilst we stay under that, really we're still in a downtrend. That's the last lower high. So it feels like a endless nuclear winter sometimes when crypto's in a bear market. I'm trying to get out of it, but hopefully this time. I'm not bearish. I'm not too bearish. I think this is a pullback, so I don't think this is the all-time high or any of that stuff. I just think that this is a pullback level for now. If it turns into more, the market will tell us. Okay, good night everyone. Thanks so much for coming. I know your time is precious, and I appreciate